Gos Yast. Gos, the cow. Kat Akhan is a personification of the animal kingdom, which she maintains and protects. She is also called Dervaspa and Gasurun. Dervaspa means she who keeps the horses in health, and is nothing more than an epithet of Gos. Gosurun, from the Zend, Geus Irvan, means the soul of the bull, the primeval bull. Although Irvan is a masculine noun in Zend, yet Gosurun is considered a female angel, as this name is only a substitute for Gos. And remember the Harut and Marut, Marduk and Zerbate, or that sort of myth, that before 1800 BCE, the myth wasn't of this usurper entity taking over the names of other so-called deities and that sort of thing, some sort of hero deity of the sorcerers or something. That wasn't the mythology. It was part of the same, and it connects to this bull of bulls, sun bull, moon bull, bull of bulls, that sort of reference. And we have it clearly referenced here. Gos is the angel of the 14th day, and her Yast is recited during the Ga Usahin on the days of Gos, Bahman, Ma, and Ram, the same days as those on which the Ma Yast is recited, the moon. So, so sun and moon and all that combine with the bull of bulls. But we could also say that later in the period, not quite, when it changed, the Marduk myth changed into what people would more commonly recognize, that, if there's masculine, and it can be considered feminine, and, some other stuff like that, the gendering, not only were these entities not some, against the other entities that people considered to be gods, which were, we generally call them angels, it's they were on the same side, and they weren't, necessarily gendered in the mythology. Gos is hardly described in these Yast. The greater part of it, 1 through 2, the greater part of it being filled with the several prayers addressed to her by the Iranian heroes. Ha Ashyanga, verse 3, Yima, verse 8, Thra Ta'ana, verse 13, Ha'ama, 17, the opium, ephedra, marijuana drink, often combined with milk, by the way, or mushroom juice or something, and there's 37 other plants according to one recipe. So that verse 17, Hus Rava, verse 21, Zarathustra and Vistaspa. Her worshippers and their prayers to her are the same as in the case of Ashe Van Guhe. Well, that's one of the things that you should learn from this series, is formulas that can be used as a monotheist or a polytheist with a little bit of twist. And some of it it's not there's twist, it's your intention with the semi-ambiguous language. 0. May Ahura Mazda may be rejoiced. May Ingra Ma'inyu be afflicted, and so on. Hashem Bahu, holiness is the best of all good, and so on. I confess myself a worshipper of Mazda, a follower of Zarathustra, one who eats the Da'avas and obeys the laws of Ahura, for sacrifice, prayer, satisfaction, and glorification unto Havana, the holy and master of holiness, under the powerful Dravaspa made by Mazda and holy. B. propitiation with sacrifice, prayer, propitiation, and glorification. Yata ahu va'iryo, the will of the Lord, is the law of holiness, and so on. 1. Part 1 compromises verse 1 through 6. 1. We sacrifice unto the powerful Darvaspa made by Mazda and holy, who keeps the flocks in health, the herds in health, the grown up in health, the young ones in health, who watches well from afar, with a widespread and long-continued welfare-giving friendship. 2. Who yokes teams of horses, and makes her chariot turn, and its wheels sound, fat and glistening, strong, tall-formed, wheel-possessing, health-giving, powerful to stand, and powerful to turn for assistance to the faithful. 3. To herded Ha'ash Yanga the Paradatta offer up a sacrifice on the enclosure of the Hara, the beautiful height, made by Mazda, with 100 male horses, 1,000 oxen, 10,000 lambs, and with an offering of libations. 4. Grant me this boon, O good, most beneficent Darvaspa, that I may overcome all the Da'avas of Mazana, that I may never fear and bow through terror before the Da'avas, but that all the Da'avas may fear and bow in spite of themselves before me, that they may fear and flee down to darkness. 5. The powerful Darvaspa made by Mazda, the holy Darvaspa, the maintainer, granted him that boon, as he was offering libations, giving gifts, sacrificing, and entreating that she would grant him that boon. For her brightness and glory, I will offer her a sacrifice worth being heard. I will offer her a sacrifice well performed, namely, under the powerful Dvaspa made by Mas and holy, we offer up libations to the powerful Dvaspa made by Mas and holy. We offer her the Ha'ama and meat, the Barisma, the wisdom of the tongue, the holy spells, the speech, the deeds, the libations, and the rightly spoken words. Yanha Hatam, all those beings of whom Ahura Mazda, and so on. Part 2 is 7 through 11. 7. We offer up a sacrifice unto the powerful Dravaspa, made by Mazda and holy, who keeps the flocks in health, who yokes teams of horses, and so on, for assistance to the faithful. 8. To herd and Yima Ksha'eta, the good shepherd, offer up a sacrifice from the height Huka'irya, with 100 male horses, 1,000 oxen, 10,000 lambs, and with an offering of libations. 9. Grant me this boon, O good, most beneficent Dravaspa, that I may bring fatness and flocks down to the world created by Mazda, that I may bring immortality down to the world created by Mazda. 10. That I may take away both hunger and thirst from the world created by Mazda, that I may take away both old age and death from the world created by Mazda, that I may take away both hot wind and cold wind from the world created by Mazda for 1,000 years. 11. The powerful Dravaspa, made by Mazda, the holy Dravaspa, the maintainer, granted him that boon, as he was offering up libations, giving gifts, sacrificing, and entreating that she would grant him that boon. For her brightness and glory, I will offer her a sacrifice worth being heard. Part 3 compromises 12 through 15. 12. Verses 12 through 15. We offer up a sacrifice unto the powerful Dravaspa, made by Mazda and holy, who keeps the flocks in health, and so on, who yokes teams of horses, and so on, for assistance to the faithful. 13. To herd and Ta'ana, the heir of the valiant Athwiya clan, offer up a sacrifice in the four-cornered Varena, with 100 male horses, 1,000 oxen, 10,000 lambs, and with an offering of libations. 14. Grant me this boon, O good, most beneficent Dravaspa, that I may overcome Azedhaka, the three-mouthed, the three-headed, the six-eyed, who has 1,000 senses, that most powerful, fiendish Drug, that demon baleful to the world, the strongest Drug that Angra Ma'enu created against the material world to destroy the world of the good principle, and that I may deliver his two wives, Savan, Gavak, and Erendavak, who are the fairest of body amongst women, and the most wonderful creatures in the world. 15. The powerful Durvaspa, made by Maz, the holy Durvaspa, the maintainer, granted him that boon, as he was offering up libations, giving gifts, sacrificing, and entreating that she would grant him that boon. For her brightness and glory, I will offer her a sacrifice worth being heard. 4 compromises 16 through 23. 16. We offer up a sacrifice unto the powerful Durvaspa, made by Mazda, and holy, who keeps the flocks in health, and so on, who yokes teams of horses, and so on, for assistance to the faithful. 17. To her did Ha'ama offer up a sacrifice. Ha'ama, the enlivening, the healing, the beautiful, the lordly, with golden eyes, upon the highest height of the Hara'ete Baresa, he begged of her a boon, saying, 18. Grant me this boon, O good, most beneficent Durvaspa, that I may bind the Turanian murderer, Fran Gracian, that I may drag him bound, that I may bring him bound unto the king Husrava, that king Husrava may kill him behind the Kasta lake, the deep lake of salt waters, to avenge the murder of his father, Sya Varshana, a man, and of Agra Ratha, a semi-man. 18. The powerful Durvaspa, made by Mas, the holy Durvaspa, the maintainer, granted him that boon, as he was offering up libations, giving gifts, sacrificing, and entreating that she would give him that boon. For her brightness and glory, I will offer her a sacrifice worth being heard. 5 is 20 to 23. 20. We offer up sacrifice unto the powerful Durvaspa, made by Mas, and holy, who keeps the flocks in health, and so on, who yokes teams of horses, and so on, for assistance to the faithful. 21. To her did the gallant Husrava, he who united the Arya nations into one kingdom, offer up a sacrifice behind the Akasta lake, the deep lake of salt waters, with 100 male horses, 1,000 oxen, 10,000 lambs, and an offering of libations. 22. Grant me this boon, O good, most beneficent Durvaspa, that I may kill the Turanian murderer, Fran Gracian, behind the Akasta lake, the deep lake of salt waters, to avenge the murder of my father Sya Varshana, a man, and of Agra Ratha, a semi-man. 23. The powerful Durvaspa, made by Mazda, the holy Durvaspa, the maintainer, granted him that boon, as he was offering up libations, giving gifts, sacrificing, and entreating that she would grant him that boon. For her brightness and glory, I will offer her a sacrifice worth being heard, and so on. 6 compromises, 24 through 27. 24. We offer up a sacrifice unto the powerful Durvaspa, made by Mazda, and holy, who keeps the flocks in health, and so on, who yokes teams of horses, and so on, for assistance to the faithful. 25. To her did the holy Zarathustra offer up a sacrifice in the Ariana Va'ega, by the good river Da'itya, with the Ha'ama and meat, with the Barisma, with the wisdom of the tongue, with the holy spells, with the speech, with the deeds, with the libations, and with the rightly spoken words. He begged of her a boon, saying, 26. O good, most beneficent Durvaspa, grant me this boon, that I may bring the good and noble Hutasa, to think according to the law, to speak according to the law, to do according to the law, that she may spread my Mazdan law, and make it known, that she may bestow beautiful praises upon my deeds. 27. The strong Durvaspa, made by Mas, the holy Durvaspa, the maintainer, granted him that boon, as he was offering up libations, giving gifts, sacrificing, and entreating that she would grant him that boon. For her brightness and glory, I will offer her a sacrifice worth being heard, and so on. 7 compromises 28 to 32. 28. We offer up a sacrifice unto the powerful Darvaspa made by Masa and holy, who keeps the flocks in health, and so on, who yokes the team of horses, and so on, for the assistance to the faithful. 29. To her did the tall Kava Vistaspa offer up a sacrifice behind the waters of the river Daitya, with 100 male horses, 1,000 oxen, 10,000 lambs, with an offering of libations. 30. Grant me this boon, O good and most beneficent Darvaspa, that I may put to flight Asta Urvant, the son of Vispa the Urvo Asta, the all-afflicting of the brazen helmet, of the brazen armor, of the thick neck, behind whom 700 camels, and so on, that I may put to flight the Havyana murderer, Arigat Aspa, that I may put to flight Darsinica, the worshipper of the Dattavas. 31. That I may smite Tathravant of the bad law, that I may smite Spinga Uruska, the worshipper of the Dattavas, that I may bring under the good law the nations of the Varedbakas and of the Hevyanas, and that I may smite of the Hevyana nations, their 50s and their hundreds and their thousands and their tens of thousands and their tens of thousands and their myriad of myriads. 32. The strong Darvaspa made by Maz, the holy Darvaspa, the maintainer, granted him that boon as he was offering up libations, giving gifts, sacrificing, and entreating that she would grant him that boon. For her brightness and glory, I will offer her a sacrifice worth being heard. I will offer her a sacrifice well performed. Namely, unto the powerful Darvaspa made by Maz and holy, we offer up libations. To the powerful Darvaspa made by Maz and holy, we offer her the ha'ama and meat, the Barisma, the wisdom of the tongue, the holy spells, the speech, the deeds, the libations, and the rightly spoken words. Yata ahu va'irio, the will of the Lord is the law of holiness, and so on. I bless this sacrifice and prayer and the strength and vigor of the powerful Darvaspa made by Maz and holy, Asham Bahu, holiness is the best of all good, and so on. Give unto that man brightness and glory, and give him health of body, give him the bright, all happy, blissful abode of the holy ones. And we are not advocating the killing of people just because they're of a different system of judgment, including, their choices in worship and that sort of thing. That's not what I'm talking about here. And I'm also not advocating just praying to whatever here. The blessing upon, prayers be upon, yeah. But this Catholic argument of saints that, we pray to them so that they'll pray to God. No, you're treating this as an intercessor God. That's what's going on. I'm starting with the Yasts commentary here, but Ma Ineva Sa'u is Ma Inu Asa'u, meaning Pun Min Oi Givaki, or Svar Gasthanim. Ereksha Kshvewe issues in Pahlavi, Aris, Shivatir, or Aris of the swift arrow. Kind of relates to the word for Artemis, doesn't it? Was the best archer in the Iranian army when Nokeher and Efrastyab determined to make peace and to fix the boundary between Iran and Turan, it was stipulated that Aris should ascend Mount Damavand, and from thence discharge an arrow towards the east, and that the place in which the arrow fell should form the boundary between the two kingdoms. Aris, thereupon, which continued from the dawn of day until noon. I don't know if they mean the middle afternoon, or whether they mean, the ninth hour, or whether they mean the passing of the midpoint of the day, probably the midpoint of the day, when it fell on the banks of the Gihun, the Oxus. Mount Kshatha seems to be the same Mount Damavand. Mount Avanvant may be the same as Mount Ba Mi'an, from which the Balk River springs, as according to Tabari, Aris's arrow stops at the Balk River, an affluent of the Oxus, but it may be that the limits given refer to the course of Tisturia. And there's likely a reference here to the shooting stars, and that would be verse 8 with the worm stars, but that's kind of doubtful about that. Mr. Geiger remarks that there is a swarm of shooting stars following every year at the time when Tisturia in the European climate is supposed to be most active, on the 10th of August. And if you look at the Goetia mythology about the star bit, in regards to Ashtaroth, that's kind of where that sort of thing comes from too. Sata Va'esa is said to be the leader of the Western stars. The placement of, the second in the cooling quarter of the year. Sata Va'esa is said to be the leader of the Western stars, to be read the Southern stars, and has, the leader of the Southern stars, okay, and has in its protection the seas of the southern quarter. The Sata Va'esa Sea is the Persian Gulf. Now, in Persian mythology, you tend to have this 3 divisions of the stars, which compromises, it's connected to stuff that points out they knew about the view of the sky beyond just, where they were, they knew it's, you're going to see different stars down south, further north, and, in the middle you see some. Sata Va'esa Sea is the Persian Gulf. And the Karshvaras of the earth in verse 9 of the Yasts seems to be an allusion to the tide in the Arabian Sea, the Sea Ba'udu Kasha, and in the Gulf of Oman, which, being a southern sea, is under the control of Sata Va'esa. And there's the right time of year where rain is expected. Of course, even though drought and rain is expected, there's obviously, you certainly can't predict a year in advance, that sort of thing. But as Tisturia is the producer of rain, Tistryen Yaska, which is Tistarat Arakasya Vrishtim, and yet again we have a reference to, but Tisturia is the first star, is clearly a reference to an entity thereof. So, Hapto Iringa, Ursa Major, is the leader of the stars in the north, is entrusted with the gate and passage of hell to keep back those of the 990 and 909,009 myriad demons and demonesses and fairies, Pa, Irikas, and sorcerers, Yachts, who are in opposition to the celestial sphere and constellations. Venant is the leader of the stars in the south. To obtain so again, sympathetic magic, that this is the type of thing regarding this in verse 12 there. This invocation is brought about by the very name of Venant, which means who smites, who overcomes. The particular office of Venant is to keep the passes and gates of Mount Alborz, around which the sun, the moon, and the stars revolve, at least in a symbolic sense, not, and to prevent the part east and the dot of us from cutting off and breaking the road of the sun. I sacrifice unto Tistar for, to obtain the soundness of the sight. The age of 15 is the paradisical age in the Avesta. You've not only hit puberty, but you're it's kind of situated, because the first couple years or something. But is it just the paradisical age of the female? Because 13, like in Islam, they put a minimum of 13 and 15, and they don't. Well, I mean, it's clear, independent morality and all that, and certain physical thing, but it's definitely more obvious after a couple years. Most people don't instantly, they have that age that until they wrinkle, they're going to be identified as that age, and people really can't tell their age, that sort of thing. But if the males are included, then it's something that can be, referencing everybody. If we just say 15 or something, and not, obey the law of your land too. Gayo Maratan, but the translation is doubtful, probably, as a first-rate man is. And then there's doubt regarding in verse 14, the virility being a reza, we're having reference. Then Tistar was converted into 3 forms: the form of a man, the form of a horse, and the form of a bull. And Baal, which is considered as a bull, kind of, is sometimes depicted as 3 forms too. A man, a toad, a cat, they're all 3 at once, and actually spiders on the list too. But as the astrologers say that every constellation has 3 forms, Tistaria promises his worshippers children, oxen or horses, according as he appears in the form of a man, of a bull, and a mile are, some equivalent measurement, the hafra, a vavo, possibly the streams. A month in the ancient Persian calendar, supposed to correspond to September-October, was called Adukana, which might, on the hypothesis, mean the month that makes the streams spring up, of which the representative is wheat, of which the representative is the summer vetch. The Usindome mountain is that which, being of ruby, of the substance of the sky, is in the midst of the wide-formed ocean. the sea Ba'uru Kasha. Mount Ausindom receives its waters through a golden channel from the height Hukairia. From there, one portion flows forth to the ocean for the purification of the sea, and one portion drizzles in moisture upon the whole of this earth and all the creations of Harmazd, Ahura Mazda, God, acquire health from it, and it dispels the dryness of the atmosphere, and, the shape of the clouds in verse 33 and some other stuff. There's doubt in terms of the real meaning. That Ha'ama opens the way for the waters from heaven as being the foremost elements in sacrifice. For the same reason, the Bundahis numbers Bahu Mano, good mind, amongst the cooperators of Tisteria. And rather than made by waters in verse 44, it may be better to say seated in the waters. The Fravashes are active in the world struggle, cooperators with Tistar were Bahuman and the angel Home, with the assistance of the angel Berg, the same as Apam Napat, and the righteous guardian spirits in orderly arrangement. And there's doubt regarding verse 36 in what it says here. Understanding, you got the mention of the chiefs of the deep. Being the chiefs of state. And you have the reference to the good and the bad harvest. Being, a good or bad year. Mount Havanvant being situated in the sea Ba'urukasha, as appears from Tisteria traveling towards that, seems to be the same with Mount Ausindom. Sim'a'u meaning Sa Magun Bayam Kara. And that would be in verse, here. Things of fear, verse 43.